Alright, now we have begun. Welcome to week 5, day 1. We'll be continuing our exploration of Unreal Engine today. Before we do that, has anyone played any fun games recently? Any new games come out that you'd like to talk about? From a game design perspective, especially. He rounded the corners better? What does that mean? Cyberpunk 2077. All right, that's an interesting game to talk about. What do you like and not like about Cyberpunk 2077? I have it uninstalled right now. It looks like, so I can't. Let's see. Maybe I can do this. Let's see here. Cyberpunk. There we go. Okay, so 158 hours I put into Cyberpunk 2077. Let's see, 100% of all achievements. Some of these achievements are stupid, by the way. Just want to say, some of those achievements were dumb because the game was buggy and didn't give it to you. Yeah. So. What was your take on it? Let's my desktop has a border radius. I don't know about that. Stardew Valley with a lot of mods, yeah. So I read yesterday that the author of Stardew Valley has stopped working on it. He's working on another project now. So no more updates to Stardew Valley. I think mods are going to be the only source of new content in the meantime. Surviving Mars, how is that? Tell me about that. I own it, apparently. Somehow. Not really sure how, but I own it. So, tell me about it. I've never played it. Love the open world, especially in HDR. Love the characters, design, sound effects, overall creativity. It takes to design a world and design all the stuff. PC, it seemed to be buggy a little. Works great now without mods. Yeah. Even with the bugs, like, my daughter actually hoped they would not remove the bugs because they were just really funny for her. Like, you're driving down the street and all of a sudden your character starts T-posing, on top of a motorcycle. Like, she just thought it was funny. Like, it's a little immersion breaking. The pathfinding of cars, driving through obstacles over and over again. Every car coming down the street just smashing into the barricades. Like, there were definitely some, it's like, okay, and they get mad at you because they think you're damaging their car and they shout at you. It's like, okay, it's not game breaking or whatever. In the final suicide mission, Keanu Reeves is sitting there T-posing, asserting dominance over Arasaka. It's just funny. I like the shot outside the camp for the nomads. Yeah, it's pretty. It's a pretty game. Yeah, could probably be anti-this a little bit more. And the landscape back there. That's alright. Yeah, the quality on it's not bad. Front texture's a little blurry. I'm nitpicking right now. Yeah, no, it's just it is a really impressive game from a visual standpoint. I think it got a bad reputation, mostly from the console gamers, especially if you're playing on a old PlayStation. Then it was literally unplayable, and I'm not using that sarcastically. Like I think it actually was. On PC though, yeah, I mean, there's bugs, but nothing. Like, I don't know if you guys remember playing Skyrim when that came out. It was a buggy mess. Like, like, Kingdom Come Deliverance, which is one of my favorite RPGs of all time, was really buggy. There was one bug where, like, a guard would drop their halberd they were carrying, and then if the game noticed they didn't have a halberd, it would spawn them a new halberd. And so over time, the ground in the city would be littered with these pole arms everywhere, and you can't really get rid of them. They don't go away. And so just the ground would be progressively covered in pole arms. Every time a guard dropped one, they would spawn another one. And you could pick one up, but you couldn't actually put a pole arm into your inventory. So you couldn't even clean them up. You could, like, pick one up at a time and ride out of town and drop it somewhere and then do this over and over again, and kind of like do litter cleanup on your town. But most of the time, you just run around and your horse is just clattering over all the, halberds in the game. Generals slipping through clothes. Yeah, I didn't play with generals on because, my daughter was watching me play it, obviously, so I never saw that. Load some screenshots of RDR. Yeah, RDR I think is probably the best looking game I've ever played. With one exception. In the area above Valentine, there's like a patch of snow that the texture is really tiled. Like, the level of detail on it like snaps into a really low level of detail. And then it has like these square patterns on it. That's like the only graphical glitch that I've seen in RDR2, which is honestly just an incredibly, amazingly beautiful game. A lot of the problems with the game was the employee retention from Witcher. Yeah, a lot of the Witcher people quit, and so I've been watching a lot of GDC videos and retrospectives on GDC is the Game Developers Conference, and I like watching retrospectives and postmortems on different games and things like that because it's really interesting to me to see the life lessons that the developers had. And so, like, John Romero, who made Doom 2, Quake, along with John Carmack, Adrian Carmack, Tom Hall, Sandy Peterson, American McGee, all these like great names in the games field. One of his big takeaway points is he left id, he got burned out, and like just was not having fun there anymore, so he left to form his own studio. And one of the big takeaways from his experience at Ion Storm was that one of the reasons why id was so successful was because each of the people there was an experienced person. Like, everybody there was good at what they did, and they had 10 years of experience in the games industry. Before they founded id, they'd been working on games for like 10 years. John Carmack is one of the greatest programmers of all time, but even he was like scratching his head at some things, and so they brought on Michael Abrash, who's now at Valve, who is like one of the gods of the computer graphics world. Like, he would write in assembly these code to render 3D images and stuff like that. And so he flew up to Seattle to meet with Abrash, who was working for Microsoft at the time. He was like, dude, please work with us on Quake. And of course, Doom was really popular at the time, so Abrash went down to Texas, and having people with experience and know-how, and like having worked in the game industry before, is so important. And what Romero's mistake was with Ion Storm was that he brought in a bunch of people that were like modders and like had talent, and he thought that's all you needed. But then he realized years later that their lack of knowledge of how the games industry worked was actually like a big liability. And the reason why id was so successful, and they were able to put out like they were for a while putting out multiple games per year. They had this incredible production cycle, and Quake was made in like, I don't know, a year and a half or something like that. If you look at the like how long it takes to make a AAA game these days, it's like much longer. So so like what Ken was saying with The Witcher was that a lot of the experienced people who had made The Witcher left, and so you had a bunch of new people in there for Cyberpunk 2077, from what I've heard, and the management and the new people, and then you had the pandemic coming in, and it was kind of a disaster for that reason. And so if they had retained their people better, I think Cyberpunk 2077 would have been a much better game at release. You have people getting burnt out from the dev cycle, and you lose seasoned employees, and you have to spend too much time teaching new people. Yeah, it's a really big problem. But at the same time, it's like, if you're not working on a project, you're paying people to do nothing, right? And so that's a constant problem, especially if you're an independent game developer, is that your studio has to be pulling money in, and if not, it's bleeding money. Like, good game developers make a lot of money. Good news for you guys. And so if you don't have a contract, then the company's money goes, and it's like opening the drain on a bathtub. You might be able to sit around for a month or two. After that, they're going to fire everybody, and it's not like they even necessarily want to. Like, that's what happened with Obsidian and Black Isle. That's why Obsidian got bought out by Microsoft, was because a friend of mine who was one of the developers of Fallout New Vegas They were working on a game for Sega that was an Aliens RPG. And so imagine that. Imagine Obsidian Software making a Aliens RPG using, like, I don't know, the Fallout engine or their own engine or something. I don't know. Like, no details were ever released about it. But then Sega was like, oh, wait, we're releasing 2 games for the Aliens franchise at the same time. We can't do that. People would be confused if 2 different Aliens games came out at the same time. So they pulled the plug on the RPG, and they released, I think it was Colonial Marine, which is Aliens Colonial Marine, which I think is like one of the lowest rated games of all time. Metacritic, Aliens Colonial Marines. Yeah, look at that. Look at that Metascore. Yeah. That was not a decision that worked out for them. But then what happened at Obsidian was that they're like, oh, shoot, we just lost our contract. And so they went scrambling trying to find people to fund them, and they couldn't, so they just ended up firing a bunch of people because it's either that or they go out of business and everyone loses their job anyway. So they ended up making, I think, South Park was it Fractured Butthole? Or the one before that? South Park. It's not Fractured Butthole, it's Fractured Butthole. How dare you? How dare you, sir? Let's see, it was... No, that's Ubisoft, no, so it was the previous one. Stick of Truth, yeah, that's it. So, Obsidian. So, they have to hunt around and hustle and, find people willing to give them money, and I think the Obsidian founders wanted to sell it to Microsoft simply because having Microsoft in your corner means that, you've got a reliable source of money, hopefully, although Microsoft has shut down Ensemble Studios, the people who made Age of Empires 2, Age of Empires 3, Age of Mythology. Then they were like, hey, you guys need to make Halo Wars for us because you're working for Microsoft now, And then Halo Wars was a disaster, and they just disbanded Ensemble Studios. And that was an interesting reason why too. That was because there was an executive who was going to get a bonus based on the net profit his division would make, and one easy way of making a net profit is to fire everybody. Then you've got money coming in, and you don't have any money going out, and you show profit. And so this guy was like, I'm just going to fire everyone. Yay, it's my brilliant big brain idea. And then everyone found out about it, and they refused to release Halo Wars until he agreed to pay them like a year's salary or something like that. And so they basically held the game hostage and negotiated with this kind of asshole executive. And the way that it worked out was they all got a fairly substantial cash payment. They went away. Some of them founded new studios and whatnot. And the executive, because of all the payouts and the way it worked out, he didn't get his bonus after all. And I think was fired from Microsoft or something like that. So there was some karmic justice in that. As always, we followed the dev cycle to understand these things. Cyberpunk, they kept delaying the game till Christmas time when they were probably pressured by money. Yeah, I mean, they probably should have had it under development for another year, but at the same time, they're bleeding money. I think they didn't think about, honestly, I think the low-end consoles was just an afterthought to them. I think they were doing most of their development on high-end machines and just were like, it runs. On an old PS4, it runs. I don't know. Seems okay. They'll figure it out. Minute loading time, they'll put up with it. So, Colonial Marine's worst game ever. Yeah. Yeah. So, a big part of the reason why it was late was just because the developers were not experienced enough, to be good. It's part of it. The reason why they released early was to hit the Christmas season, I'm sure. I'm sure they had money pressures coming in. I mean, CD Projekt Red had a lot of money. Like, The Witcher was one of the biggest successes of all time. So I'm sure they had cash kind of sitting around. But at a certain point, somebody had to make a call, like, all right, just release it. And now, 10 months later, it's probably shippable. So, I don't know, they probably could have pushed it back to now. Would have angered a lot of people, too. When games are released on Sony Microsoft, they have all these rules for patches, updates, and their stores contracts that differ. Yeah, if you want to push out a patch to Sony, they have to review it. Like, Sony and Microsoft have this very extensive review process. If you want to release a game or a patch on them, like, they have a QA people play through your game and like make sure that it doesn't break, it doesn't crash. Like they have a very extensive testing process in addition to your own testing process, and they'll kick back a patch to you or a game to you if it doesn't pass. And so the fact that they had to pull Cyberpunk 2077 from the PlayStation Store is actually a black mark on Sony's part. That's not even CD Projekt Red's. Sony approved the game. It went through their QA process. And then afterwards, they're like, oh yeah, actually it's terrible. Probably because they were pressured to release it because it's a big hit and they didn't want people getting sales on Xbox instead, is my guess. I don't know. I wasn't there. I have no insight on the matter. So, on PC, zero review. PTS servers are so much fun, but YouTube comments are like, why can't they do this on Xbox? Yeah. Yeah. Why are mods not allowed? Right? Sony and Microsoft. I mean, Xbox could probably do mods out of the box. Like, I don't think that there's any like technical reason why you couldn't do it. I could be wrong, but they simply don't control that ecosystem. And Sony and Microsoft. And one of the things I really, really hate about consoles, and one of the reasons why I'm not a console gamer, is because they lock down their environment. Right? Like on Sony, like if you want to get rid of the tiles at the top of the screen, like I just don't want these. You can't do it. You have no control over your own system. It is Sony's system, and you are privileged enough to be able to use it. And I hate that. Like, the only time I'll really play a console game is if it's an exclusive. Like Ghost of Tsushima was an exclusive, so I played it on there. And yeah, I'm a PC gamer because I can mod my own stuff. You know, you can't mod Skyrim. There's the Creation Club, which is like a bastardized version of modding that you have to get official approval from and all this other stuff, and they're like little stupid mods that don't really do very much. And so you can inject them into PS4 save files. Yeah, it's just... It drives me crazy. Like, mods are what make a lot of games, right? Like, Skyrim without mods is not a very good game. I'm just gonna say that. Like, Skyrim without mods is like, it's okay. It's alright. I couldn't even, like, I don't even know, like, do people on PC play without mods, like, legitimately? Like, usually I'll play it through once, or play through until I stop, without mods, just to get the vanilla experience and kind of understand how the game works. And then I'm like, alright, it's modding time, you know? It's like, let's get some new hairstyles in here, let's get some new weapons up in here, you know? So here's my mods for Skyrim. So these are some mods that my students made. Engine fixes, alternate starts, different weather mods, Modpocalypse, which I think I'm gonna uninstall that actually. Like it makes the NPCs look way too weird. I'm gonna delete that one. It gives a unique face for all like 1,000 NPCs in the game, but it just makes some of them look really weird. And enhanced lights, Flora overhaul, better meshes, open cities so you don't have to zone into a city. The door is open, you just ride in. Bigger trees, unofficial. See, these are all actually pretty boring stuff that I've installed right now. Like just basically bug fixes and lights and graphics mods and things like that. So nothing too crazy right now. In the past, I've certainly modified it much more crazily. New Vegas mod helping with the crashes. Yeah, that's funny. After I do the first playthrough, mods, Nexus mods, Vortex. Yeah, it's how long before I kill the game with overloads. Yeah, Vortex is actually really nice for resolving the conflicts between mods, because for as much as we love Oblivion and Skyrim and Morrowind mods and things like that, they really didn't do a good job. Like it works fine if you have one mod. If you have two mods, I don't think Bethesda thought that far ahead, honestly. Like people might install more than one. I don't know. It's like you put things into a directory and then you put something else into the same directory, and if those files overwrite these files, then everything crashes or breaks or you have horrible graphical glitches. Like the entire system they have set up for doing modding is just nonsensical. And Vortex will handle the conflicts and dependencies and things like that really nicely. So, New Vegas. It's only a matter of time before the game crashed. Yeah, I was actually going to have my students do New Vegas mods in the spring. And so I went through the process of reinstalling Vegas and getting all the bug patches and the 64-bit version and everything. And I got it running. And 10 minutes in, it crashed. And I'm like, screw this. And I uninstalled it. Like, I can't put my students through that. I would pay money to have a remake of Fallout New Vegas. Honestly. Okay, so... yeah, so that's a little rant about game design, but the upshot is that experience is good, and you know the development cycle matters. Thinking things through is important. Like if you're going to support modding, and modding is a huge part of like the Bethesda ecosystem, you know, if you're going to support modding, then you should do a better job than Bethesda, right? So they're making a mod of New Vegas and Fallout 4. Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, and they're redoing Daggerfall in the Skyrim engine and Skywind, I think it's called, or Dagger, whatever. Yeah, no, Morrowind. Morrowind in the Skyrim engine is called Skywind, and then yeah, I don't know. They're people have been working on those things for years. It's a lot of work, and so they don't really work that well. Unity Daggerfall is okay, I guess. Okay. They hire modders to or attempt to, or ban them depending on the companies. Yeah, it's really annoying. Like how much companies hate modders sometimes that make their games better for free. You know, it's like it's like I said, I was reading this interview with the Stardew Valley guy, and they asked him about the modders that made all the NPCs marryable in the game, and he's like, yeah, cool, you know. Basically, good on you. You know, I would have done it, except it's a lot of work. Like, you think it's not a lot of work to make somebody marryable, but you gotta do the dialogue and the quests, and like you have to give them their own room, and it's just like a lot of work. And I'm you know one guy, you know, and so like modders will oftentimes fill in a lot of the detail that the developer doesn't have time to do. And honestly, it just drives me crazy when developers fight the modders. Like they change the location of data, so the mods all break on an update and things like that. Nintendo, yeah, Smash Brothers, right? What's your opinion on installing Valorant? I've never installed Valorant, and in general, I'm not a big fan of those systems that mess up your machine. The two assignments. I don't know what that's talking about. Okay. Let's get into Unreal Engine. So, yeah. One thing, yeah. So if you're interested in those topics, and what we talked about in the last half hour was fairly wide ranging, right? GDC Vault is on YouTube, and interesting. Creating nostalgia for Crash Bandicoot 4. Disintegrating meshes with particles in God of War. I actually added that in the laser zombies. I actually did that. That's cool. Check me out. Heaven's Vault, creating a dynamic detective story. So, how to make and self-publish a game in 12 months. There's a lot of really, really good stuff available for free on the GDC website. 10 principles for good level design. I mean, like, in all seriousness, I think actually your daily assignment might be to watch one of these videos and see what the lessons are from it. How about that? You guys want to do that for your next homework assignment? Sounds good. Okay, cool. So let me just copy this into Discord and just pick one on there. Maybe post onto the chat channel which one you picked. And then we won't have duplicates. Okay? So just first come, first serve. I want Heaven's Vault. All right, it's yours. Okay, there's only 7 people online right now, so it should be fine. High performance producers, making marketing mistakes, 3 statistical tests. Yeah, it's of course about game balance. The loner, why some people play MMOs alone. That's me. I play almost every MMO solo. I really hate guild drama, and I hate looking for parties and dealing with people yelling at you because you didn't heal at the right time. I just play as solo. It's like, oh, you can't do this high-end content. Okay, so I won't. So you're going to suck. Okay, I'll uninstall the game. Cool. Nice. Good job. I played Crowfall a little bit. Boring as hell. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. Okay. So let's hop back into here. Cursed problems in game design. Nice. That sounds good. Crash course in business and leadership for indie games. Yeah, it's like I guess write up like a 1-page, like just bullet points of like what you learned, like the important takeaways, and then I'll share those at the start of class. Okay. I need to open those again. You guys understand? So just find for me the takeaway points. I don't want to watch all those hours of videos. I mean, I do actually. But, you know, just go through, summarize, this is what you need to know. What are the 3 statistical tests every game developer should know? You tell me. You know what I mean? This one, this one, this one. Okay, cool. All right. And then I'll put them up on the screen, start next class, and we can go through it. Because a lot of this class is talking about game design and game balance and things like that. Okay, so we got here some stuff. Didn't I add a landscape? Did I not add a landscape? Who are you? What is going on here? I seem to recall adding a landscape last time, didn't I? A landscape material and stuff? No? That was another level. Oh yeah, that was in my project. Procedurally generating worlds. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I currently have a subscription to Houdini, which allows you to procedurally generate stuff. That's it's fun. It's a different way of doing modeling. Normally, you like take a shape and you shape it and extrude it and stuff like that, and glue things together. With Houdini, it's all like a node-based system, and you can say start with a torus and select these points and explode them, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Okay, so let's go through landscaping again real fast. Shift 2, sorry, is landscape mode, and for this one I'm actually going to make the landscape a little smaller. Number of sections 8. Let's make it a 4x4. There we go, we don't need a giant world. It'll make doing the lighting calculations and stuff a little bit easier. And then the overall resolution, yeah, it's fine. I'll just leave it at that. So sections, yeah, it's fine. Section size. And I'll just drop it down to 2x2 maybe. There you go. So just have 4 little panels there. It's actually really big, isn't it? Still. There you go. Just a little island like this. Okay. But I increased the. Good enough. Okay, so for the material here, I'm going to choose, I'll just start off with moss again, and hit create. And so it's going to think for a little bit, and then it creates this giant thing. We turn the camera speed up. There we go. Fly around a little bit more. And so I've got our starting zone here on a nice grassy field. It doesn't look too realistic, so let's do a little, add a little noise to it, radius, strength, okay. So I'm gonna just drag this around like this a little bit, and just add a little bit of noise. Let's make the radius bigger, there we go. Woo, too much, click, too much still. Drop the strength down, okay, like that, good. All right, cool, nice, all right, sweet. And there we go. So we got some noisy noise here, and the area near us we are going to sculpt, and I'm going to turn the radius down to about that. And I'm just going to lift you up a little bit, and then I'm going to go to flatten here and flatten it down like that. And that's looking pretty much what I want. No, I kind of want it a little bit higher, so I'm going to click there and flatten it like that. And so it's not much of a gap there. And just pull that around like that. So the area around the platform is going to be flat. Add about the level of the person. And then if we hit play, you can see we can, there we go. So it's a little step, we can step up on it. That's all I wanted. I didn't want it to be too crazy. Okay, and then, okay, so that's a decent enough looking things. Yeah, so escape. Yeah, if you want to go to the landscape mode, you can go to the modes panel. In older versions of Unreal Engine, it was over here. And it's always fun, like when you do a lecture and they like move stuff on you, and you're like, all right, click here for landscape, and the tab's gone. You're like, where'd it go? You know. And so they moved. There used to be all these things were over here, and they move them. And they do that every so often, and you're like, all right, students, hang on 1 second, you know. So that's where you go to get landscape there, or Shift 2, and then the tab appears where it used to be, you know. And then under sculpting, you can do all that kind of stuff. I'm gonna do a little erosion, maybe. Let's do a little erosion on this. A little erosion due to rainfall. Okay, let's turn the strength up. So that's like carving these holes in the thing due to water. Okay. Doesn't look great. I'm actually going to undo that. There. Just erode it a little bit. Okay. All right, so there we go. And then last time we talked a little bit about doing save all. Last time we talked about doing a landscape material, right? Remind me. We talked about doing a world aligned blend and stuff like that, right? I create sticky notes of the keybinds. T control texture the same node. Okay, that's cool. Do you guys remember that? Like doing the world aligned blend and all that stuff? Anyone remember what we did last time? Okay, good. So today let's talk about water. So go to plugins. So go to your edit and go to plugins, and oops, it's on the other monitor. Snap that over here, and under search for water. Search for water. Come on, Unreal Engine, you can do it. Water. I don't know why it does this. Sometimes, like, it just doesn't want to search for things. There we go. I don't know. I want to tell you. So search for water and make sure that both water and shallow water are enabled. Now they're going to know that most water in games are lies. They can be. Should we ever be merging objects or characters together? No, not really. No. That's you can group things together for convenience, but in general, if you're going to be having something like the snowman, you're going to go into like a blueprint editor and then like build it up from there. You can I guess use primitives, but it makes working with it a lot more annoying. Actually, you want them all to be grouped up. You want them inside of one object, and so they're all you have one local space and they're all kind of relative to each other and stuff. Okay, so make sure these things are checked. If they're not checked, check them, and then you'll have to click down here to reboot the Unreal Engine. So let's talk about lakes. So there's a lot of different ways you can do water in video games. You can simulate it realistically using like water simulations and things like that, or you can cheat at it. So I'm gonna just make a little depression over here. I'm going to show you the quick and dirty way of making a lake. Check it out. So I'm going to go over to place actors, and I'm going to go to plane. I'm going to drag out a plane. And you can see the plane is really, really tiny. It's like 1 meter in size. Shift 1. And let's try that again. Shift. There we go. And I am going to scale you up. Come on. There we go. I'm going to scale it up, and then I'm going to move it up. And you can see that when you intersect a plane with an interesting set of contours, that you will get a nice non-plane looking lake, right? So as I move it up and down, in fact, you'll see it sort of fills the lake. And in fact, a very simple way of doing waves is you just animate it using blueprints to come up and down. And you see the waves will rush in and the waves will rush out, and it's quite nice. In fact, I might do that in a little bit. But first, we need to give it a water texture. So let's come over to our starter content and materials. And you'll see there is something called water lake. And I'm just going to drag that on. And there we go. And it's going to look terrible because we have scaled this thing up to the size of, 67 times bigger than it should be. So the material here is not scaling properly, right? So we could double click on the thing here, and you can see that over here we got all these text chord nodes. We can mess with that if we wanted to. Every one of these text chords would be multiplied by some parameter we would have, and then we could create a material instance out of it, and we can create a material instance out of it and change the scaling on it. Let's see if there's another way we can do this. Geometry box. So we use a box instead of a plane, which will have its own issues, but scale this. Scale that way. More maybe. Okay. And let's see here. That doesn't look very good. Let's see. Actually, let's set this back down to 111, and then we will set the size of it 6,000, 6,000, 6,000, and the Z actually should be not 6,000, 10 maybe. There we go. And so there is just change its size a little bit more, maybe 8,000. Okay. And so one of the nice things about using this geometry thing here is it rather than scaling it, which causes all the textures to like blur out on it and stuff like that, you can actually set its size. And so it's a size 8,000 box. Rather than using a size 1 box and scaling it up 8,000 times, which makes the textures look garbage, you can say, I am a 1,000 size box. And there's other cool stuff you can do with it. For example, you could take a cone, and let's rotate this around like that, and pull it up a little bit like that, and scale it up a little bit like that. And then I'm going to say, you are subtractive. Hey, look at that. So, it's a little bit far away. So what happened here is that it actually took a chunk out of the lake. So you can actually do what's called constructive solid geometry. So you can have boxes add together. This is an additive box, and so it will simply glom on to the other one, which is about what you'd expect normally. But if I set this box to be subtractive, then it will actually take a chunk out of the other box. And so this is a real easy way of doing things like making tunnels and things like that. You take a cylinder, and then you take a second cylinder and make it subtractive, and then you've got a pipe. Yay, easy. And because these models are still there, it's actually not destructive. I can click on the cone, find it, and not you, yes, you, where is the cone? See, I don't know why this search thing just, cone brush, there we go. So I can just take that and delete it, no, okay, and then brush, brush. So this guy, I can delete you as well. And there you go. So you can sort of dynamically do modeling. It's very simple modeling, but for like, you know, if you want to make a hollow box or something like that, it's pretty easy. Shallow water is in beta, enable the plugin anyway. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool looking. So, so where is this? It's over that way. Okay, so let's come over here, and so slow, so slow. So I can't fall through the box, right? So this is a solid surface. But do you see how like you have the different textures and stuff moving across it? Like you have one texture that's kind of you have one texture that's kind of coming up this way and another texture coming this way, and they do that so they sort of interfere and create like a water pattern. I just closed my face. I closed my face. How embarrassing. So I can't fall through it. If you do the plane, you can fall through it pretty easily. Let's see if we can set this to fall through it. Brush, yeah. Yeah, it's a thing, right? So you're gonna walk on top of the water. Now, let me show you what that would look like if we were doing a plane. Let me create another lake, maybe over here. So let's sculpt this down over here. And it's maybe a little bit too deep. Strength reduction. Yep. Little mountain lake over here. Okay. So if I did that with a plane, switching back into select mode, I did that with a plane over here, move it up, scale, 8 thou, Z doesn't matter. Let's do that. Okay. And then we'll drop water in there. Oh wow, that's way too big. Let's 30, still too big. No, not too big. Okay, 50, 60, 60, 70. Good enough. Okay. So now if I really need to add sprinting too, huh? Do you guys want to see how to do sprinting? That was really slow. And we walk on this one as well. But you see how the textures are all stretched out? Okay. So let's see, simulate physics, collision presets, no collision. Okay. So now if I so I turned off collision on it, and so now if I fall in, I go through. And I die. Do you know why I die? Why do I die when I go down there? Death box. Very good. Mr. Diaz. Yeah, under world settings, there is something called the kill Z plane. And so at 10 meters below sea level, you die. And it's done to keep, when things fall out of the world as they do in video games, it just deletes them. It's a safety measure to keep things from just falling forever. So I'm going to set this down to like negative 50 meters. Okay. So I have health set. I do not have any health system activated right now. Okay, let's see. We got 40 minutes left. Let's first show you guys how to do a sprinting system, just because this is going to annoy me if we don't have one. So I'm going to come into third person BP, go into blueprints, go in, nope, not you, third person, meshes, no. Third person game, where is the character? Oh, I deleted it, didn't I? Yeah, okay, so it's going to be under Bill, under main character. For yours, it'll probably be under the third person character folder. Okay, so here we've got all this stuff for handling the main character. This handles WASD, this handles mouse, this handles jumping. Okay. Why are you not dragging? Why are you not dragging? What are you doing? I think it's a bug. Okay. Anyway. So, and then I've got my attack system over here. Let's move that down over here. Comment, attack system, like that. So we've got our attack system, we got our jumping. Let me move it, thank you. My goodness. And then we want to do sprint. Okay. So in order to do sprinting, I could just make it work on the shift key being held down. The more proper way of doing it is to come up here into edit, not plugins, misclick. Edit, project settings, input, and then we're going to create a new action mapping. The action mapping is going to be called sprint. And we will bind this. Easier way of doing it is click here, left shift. There you go. So if we hold down left shift, it is going to give the sprint command, and if we release, it will let off on the sprint command. So let's do event sprint, like that. So when we hold down left shift, it's going to do something. When we release it, it's going to do something else. So there's a couple different ways I can do this. There's a more proper way where I set variables and stuff like that. Do you guys want to see the more proper way, or do you want to see the quick and dirty way of doing it? How did I make that? Is it a preset in the graph editor? Nope. I just went up to edit, project settings, input, and said there is now an event for sprinting. And that event will be caused by the person hitting left shift. Once you do that, then you can right click here and choose event sprint, and it'll give you this node here. And this is bound to the shift key by default. Okay. You want to see both? Okay. No, I'll just show you the long way then, because the long way includes the short way. Okay, so do I have begin play in here? Nope. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is, okay, so on begin play, so begin play is when the person spawns in the world, right? So I'm going to drag out my character movement. My character movement holds all the information about like how fast I run, right? So if I click over here on character movement, you can see over here I've got how big a step I can take, my walk speed when crouched, can I walk off ledges, how fast I jump, all that kind of stuff. Air control, how much control you have in the air when you're falling. Swimming speed, flying speed. But you notice there's no sprinting speed in this, right? So we're gonna do a sprinting thing, and I'm just gonna adjust the walking speed. Let's see if there's acceleration, max acceleration. I might turn that up as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust the walking speed. So when they sprint, they'll move 2.5 times as fast. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get walking speed, get max walk speed, boom, and I'm going to right click on that and choose promote it to a variable. And so what that will do is that will save my that's going to save my starting walking speed. This is what I mean by doing it the proper way. I could just hard code it where like you hit shift, you move at 1200, you release, you move at 600. But then what if somebody later on came in here and changed my walking speed, right? Then it would break. You'd be running at one speed, then once you shift and release shift, you'd be moving at another speed. So we're going to save our original speed into a variable. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this value and multiply it by another thing, which I guess we can call our sprint modifier, or I'll just hard code it at 2.5 because why not? And then we will promote that to a variable as well. And so let's get that out of the way here. And so basically what's going to happen here is Q, there we go. So when we begin playing, we save our starting speed, and then we multiply that by 2.5 and save this as a new variable known as max sprint speed, or something like that. Okay. So now that we've got our running speed and our walking speed, now when we press down Shift, we're going to set our speed to our running speed, and when we release it, we'll set it back to the walking speed. Okay. So when we press it, we're going to do this, and we are going to set max flagging. Okay. Set max walk speed here. And so when we press sprint, we are going to be setting it to max sprint speed. So you can actually drag out a variable and put it right on a pin like that, which is kind of nice. It's a nice little shortcut. So when we press sprint, it's going to set our max walk speed to 1200, 1500. And then when we release it, we are going to set max walk speed again back to the default, which is our walk speed. If you don't want to drag it on top, you can just drag it out like this and choose Git and hook it up like that. If you can hit it, there you go. And you guys, I will align left. There we go. So they're all nice and lined up properly. And we'll move all of you up a little bit and hit that and hit sprint. Okay, so let's try that out, see if it works. I'm sure it'll work right the first time. It always does, right? Yep, there we go. Okay, so I'm sprinting, and then I'm still sprinting. Kind of stuck, aren't I? Gonna drown. Okay, so why is it not working if I let off? Set max walk speed. Set a breakpoint on this. Let's see if it's happening. Play. I'm sprinting, I'm sprinting, I'm sprinting. I let go. There we go, it braked. Okay. So it's going to set max walk speed to 600. Okay. Turn off the breakpoint. Resume. Thank you very much. Feels like it's not decelerating at all. It's like it's setting my speed to be fast, and then it's not coming off that. Debugging is real. Yeah. I mean, at least it's sprinted, right? You know what I mean? So, so if you want to learn how to debug, let's try this. Let's try this. Oh, that's why. I'm setting the variable. I'm not actually setting the max walk speed on the character movement. That's why. Okay. So I have a variable called max walk speed, and then the character movement itself has a variable called max walk speed. Maybe I shouldn't call it the same thing. Maybe I'll call this walk speed and sprint speed. Just, yeah, so we can tell them apart. Yeah, that's my bad right there. Okay, compile, save. Let's do this. I'm sure we don't need to debug now. There we go. We're sprinting, and we're slow. And we're sprinting, and we're slow. And we're now drowning. Sprint. Get up. Be like a horse in Skyrim. Yes. Awesome. Woo, off the edge of the world. And I'm dead. Okay, so successful. That's sprinting. I'll post the screenshot of this for y'all. There you go. Control-Shift-S. Control-Shift-S. Command Shift or Windows key Shift S. Why is it not screenshotting? It's not screenshotting. Weird. Oh, thank you, Spraggins. I don't know. It's not popping up for me. That's the shortcut. Cool times. All right. Snip and save. Snip tool. Yeah, that's the old one. Not sure it'll work. Rectangular. Yeah, that works. Don't know what to tell you. There we go. So save that. That'll be called sprinting system. All right. So that took 10 minutes to do. Cool. Windows key Shift S. Yeah. But it's not. It copies to the clipboard, but it also pops up a little notification sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't. I don't know. All right. Sometimes it acts up. Yes, it does. All right. Okay. So we got this. We got that. Got the other thing. Okay. Let's learn about real water now. Okay. Or we can animate this. Let's animate this. Let's do that. Okay. So we've got our water plane here. I'm going to add a script to it. So I click on Blueprint, Add Script, and I'm going to call this one Water Riser, something like that, and select. And so now we've got this fellow here. That's our water tile. No collision, still visible. Yes. It'd be really neat if planes had the ability to control the frequency of the materials on them. That'd be neat, but they don't. So what we're going to do is we just got this plane. We just took the plane, clicked on the blue button, turned it into a blueprint, and then it gets sucked off into this alternate dimension here. It looks the same out here, but now this is actually a thing that has code attached to it. How much code? No code. So if you have no code attached, when you open it up later, it'll show you this. So you have to click on Open Full Blueprint Editor, and then you can come over here and see we've got no code currently. So what we're going to do is on Begin Play, we're going to just save our position. So we're going to get world location, get geolocation. No. U static mesh component. We are going to. Thank you. Get world location of the static mesh component is a-okay. It's already attached, bro. You don't need to make another one. All right, so on Begin Play, we are going to promote this to a variable, and we are going to save our starting location. The reason why we're going to do this is because we're going to be simulating the tides and the waves and the wind. So what we're going to do is we have this plane, and all we're going to do is have the program raise the water level and lower the water level. If you don't need realistic water, this is actually a really nice trick to simulate waves rushing in and waves rushing out. Because waves are actually really, like, complicated. You know what I mean? Like, you know, if you ever been in a pool, you see the ripples go out and they reflect around and all that stuff. Now, go to the ocean and there's waves cresting, and it's a very complicated thing to simulate. And we're going to go into the more complicated way of simulating it in just a little bit. But this is a really easy to do hack, and it's very simple. It does not slow down your frame rate, like, almost at all, because it's a plane. What's a plane? 2 triangles. Rather than what you're going to see, which is a lot of triangles to simulate realistic water, it's 2 triangles, and the triangles go up and they go down. And what happens is that when you do this with the contours of an interesting landscape, it'll look like the water's rushing in and the water's rushing out, and it actually behaves in kind of a realistic looking way as long as you don't look too close at it. And if you want to disguise it, you can put like foam particles on it and stuff like that to kind of hide what's going on. And a lot of games have used that successfully, especially if it's like off in the distance. Then you just don't need anything more than this. It's important to preserve your frame rate. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to just save our location. So I'm going to save this as F2, by the way, is how you rename something. Starting location. That. And maybe let up snipping sketch. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's just a weird thing. So I'm going to just save my starting location. Cool. And then I'm going to do a very simple animation using event tick. And yes, thank you. And so in event tick, we'll just say save our starting application. And then for this part, we're just going to move up and we're going to move down. And how we're going to do that, it could be done in a lot of different ways. I'm just going to get the current time in the world. So if the time is 10 seconds, time is 11 seconds, time is 12 seconds, I kind of wanted to go up, and then time is 13, 14, 15, I wanted to go down. And so to me, that sounds like a sine wave. So for those of you that loved trig, look, trig is useful. For those of you that hated trig, look, trig is useful. So we're just going to basically just get the current time. So we are going to get world time, get world delta seconds now, get game time. Since creation, get game time in seconds. There we go. So this is going to tell us what time it is. So it's a floating point value. It's just how long it's been since the game started. And I'm going to feed this into a sine function in degrees or radians. Let's do radians. And we need to, before we do that actually, there's two things that describe every sine wave. There is the amplitude and there is the frequency. And so the frequency is how often the thing repeats. And we can get the frequency, we can adjust this based on the frequency by multiplying, right click, promote to variable, frequency, just like that. And so if you want to set a default value for the frequency, you have to compile it first. And then over on the right hand side here, frequency. So if you wanted to move up and down 10 times per second, we would set the frequency to be 10. I'm just going to set it to 1 by default. Don't set it to 0. That'll have the thing never move. Okay. Where did you get the static mesh component? Drag and drop right here. So this is the static mesh component. And so you just drag that out, and then you can drag off that get world location. And that'll tell you where the thing is. I don't really care where it is. I just need to save it, because what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be adding to it based on this sine wave kind of thing I'm coming up with here. Technically I don't need to save that. I can just add and subtract every frame, but errors will start creeping in, and the thing will start drifting up more and drifting down less, and you'll see the waves going like this, and the water level just keeps rising. You get global warming, and it's really embarrassing. So be aware that anytime you work with floating point numbers, there's a possibility for error. So if you think that if you add all the up positions, then add all the down positions, then add up all the up positions, and add all the downs, it'll work out to 0. Probably not. Probably not. There's always error in floating point numbers. So don't always reset back to some base value. That's why I'm saving this. So it's always going to be like my starting value plus 5, my starting value minus 3, and so it always uses the starting value as a default to avoid noise. Okay, so we're going to take the time in seconds, multiply it times frequency, feed this into the sine in radians, I guess, and then we are going to multiply the result of this by another float times another float, and that's going to be amplitude. Right click on the pin, promote to variable amplitude. And there's also phase, but we don't care about that. So there's frequency, amplitude, and phase. We don't care about phase. Phase is just like, does it start high, does it start low? Who cares? By the time we go over to the lake, we don't know anyway. If it matters to you, you can take this and add in phase to it if you so desire. Yeah, fine, I'll do it. Float plus float. Add in promote to variable, phase. You go in there. Nope. It's all a big mess now. There we go. You. And so this setup here, where you've got a sine wave with frequency, phase, and amplitude, that describes any wave, any trigonometric wave. And by playing with these parameters, compile, save, phase is going to default to 0 because, like I said, I don't really care about it. Amplitude, if I set it to 0, there's not going to be any wave. The wave height is going to be 0. This is wave height. So I'm going to set the wave height to something large. 10,000. So that'll be 100 meters. So we should see this thing move, and then I'll adjust it later. And I'm going to make frequency, amplitude, and phase all public, so I can actually edit them from the game editor. And then what I'm going to do is once I've... This is going to compute how far up I should move every frame of the game. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get the world location. I guess I'm already doing that there. And I'm just going to add to it, add vector plus vector. And this one I'm going to split. So I can just add into the z. Z is how far up it goes, right? So this whole sine wave business is just going to say how far up the plane should move on this frame. And x and y, yeah, I don't want it sliding around. Just it's going to be moving up and down. And then at the end of the day, I'm going to set world location of static mesh component, which I don't need. I've already got you. Kind of a bit of a mess. I apologize. Maybe like that. I don't know. I'm going to set the world location to be that value there. So basically, every time the game ticks, every frame, it's going to run this sine. It's just a multiply and add, a sine and a multiply. It's not the end of the world. You don't want to have too many things like this running on event tick, but you know, for a simple things like this, it's not too bad really. And so it's just going to be setting the location of this plane every frame. So now let's run it and see if it works right the first time. Nope. It's because it's not set to be movable. Is it because I didn't set it to be movable? Yes, that's why. Common classic blunder. Right up the earth, don't get into a land war in Asia, and don't make a bet with a Sicilian when death is on the line. Yeah, you can't move something unless it's set to movable, even in blueprints. So let's try that again. And let's go over here. And oh, it's gone. Whoa, it's flashing around. I saw it for a second. The amplitude's way too high. Alright, so I'm going to set the amplitude down to like 100. And the frequency, I'm going to set to like, let's see, game time. I'm going to set to 3. Okay. Save, play. Whoop. It's still a little bit too big. Whoop. 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 That's kind of fun. You notice how you can't see it from below? That's because it's you only draw the front side of a plane, right? So, fill collision underneath for nav mesh. Let's see here. Do we have two-sided? Is that a possibility here? Two-sided. Are you not searching again? Unreal Engine, you're not searching for me. What a great thing. Some things you can set as like two-sided drawing. I don't know if this one does. Visible line math settings. Okay, so we'll set the amplitude down to 10. Save, play. Alright, still a little bit too big, but you can kind of see what we're going with here. Do you see how it looks like the water is like rushing in there? And it's a very complicated equation. Like if you were trying to compute this programmatically, like that, you know, figuring out all that stuff is quite hard to do. And so all we're doing is we're just moving a plane up and down, right? And so frequency is probably a little too high. I'm going to lower the water level a little bit here. Amplitude's still too high for my taste. I'm going to cut it down to like 2. And the frequency I'm going to set to 1. And I'm going to guess that's going to be around the ballpark of what we want. Remember, guys, if it doesn't work right the first time, give up and delete Unreal Engine. Looks alright. Looks alright. Not quite realistic, but looks better. So let's come in here into landscape mode, sculpting, and let's just drop a little bit. I'm going to make a little channel for the water to run up over here. That should look kind of fun. Over this way, maybe. Maybe a little too much. There. And maybe I'll do something like that. Make this a little bit bigger, scale of 100, 100. There we go. And let's see, carve out strength or radius. So carve out a little bit of a niche over here, just so you can kind of see. Just gonna carve a little channel like that. And then what you're going to see is the water will kind of conform to the contours there. See that? So it looks like the water is actually moving in. It looks like the water is moving laterally. You see that? No! Again. I need to do something with that so I can get out. Does that make sense to y'all? So by just simply intersecting a plane with a landscape, you can simulate water kind of coming in and coming out. Tides go in, tides go out, nobody can explain it. Okay. So as carve. Okay. I need to smooth you a little bit. Smooth you out. Sculpt. You see that? You see how that kind of looks like waves moving, right? Kind of cool, right? It's kind of cool. I think it's cool. And if we had more time today, we could play with the textures on it and make the textures look a little better. Get transparent or translucent and have foam on it and stuff like that. For these projects, I would just keep using your current project. I mean, there's, no reason to make a new one every time, I don't think. I mean, I think that looks pretty good. It looks pretty good. The amplitude, like in a real game, I'd tone it down because the water, having a lake move like this is very odd for a lake to sort of gain and lose water volume. But, I'd have it just kind of move around a little bit and just simulate waves and stuff like that. So like on the where it intersects the ground, you can see it kind of moving like a water, or moving like a wave. It's kind of cool. Look, it's a neat little effect, and it is so cheap to do. Because if we were to switch over into brush wireframe, you can see that maybe not. I can't see anything. Click on you. Brush wireframe. It's just 2 triangles. You can see how many triangles go into the landscape, right? And how many triangles go into our snowman and snow woman here. And then that whole water thing is 2 triangles. And it's on event tick, so, not the greatest thing there, but it's just doing a little trig, little add, a little bit of multiply, every frame's not the end of the world. We don't have too many of these things. It's not a big deal. So we created a very complicated wave coming in, going out with very little effort. Okay, so let's learn how to do real water. So real water, come over here. Water risers are our thing we just made. I want to make two spheres collide with each other and make an explosion. I already started on Blake project. I tried rolling projects. Yeah, I would just keep working on the same, honestly. Because then you've got one place where you've got all of your tricks. And if you don't like this, like if you don't like having this lake in here, like you can just delete it. Your blueprint's still here. And that's one of the nice things about it. It's like if you were to delete your 3-sphere snowman out of the world, it's gone. But if you have it in a blueprint, then, well, if you ever want to bring it back out, you can just drag it out there. Boom, there it is. So you got another yeller there. Right? So you can make duplicates of these things. So I like just having a folder. I call it Bill. It's not the best organization, but it allows me to find my stuff easily. What is this thing doing anyway? Event hit. All right. Good. Go away, human! Okay. All right, so let's talk about water. So the water thing, as you saw, is experimental. It was added, I think, in 4.26 or 4.27, one of those. And it's really cool. Now, in order for it to work, and this is something I always forget, click on your landscape and make sure Enable Edit Layers is on, like I just forgot to do. On the last one, I remembered to do it. On this one, I did not. So you have to have Enable Edit Layers on, or it just doesn't work, and you'll stare baffled at the screen like I did the last time I taught this class. I'm like, now I'm forgetting something. Yeah, it should, in my opinion, warn you if you're using the water system without this turned on. Instead, you just get these really weird glitches and things like that. So, first thing we're going to do is we're going to add an ocean to the world. So just drag out the ocean. You'll see a little outline, and that's the boundary of the ocean. I'm just going to put it right there. And you'll see what happens is that it clips away your world. Ooh, what is that? What are you doing? What the hell happened to you? Go away, woman. What did you do wrong? What is this? Play. It just doesn't. Huh. Weird. Never seen that before. I wonder if it's because I don't have that many tiles. But notice, like, it looks pretty good as it is. What did you do wrong? Yeah, it's like, huh. I wonder if I just scale this down a little bit, like 0.5, 0.5, 0.5. There we go. I think like maybe when it goes off the edge of the map, it doesn't work. Yeah, that's what the problem is. Okay. Normally my landscapes are bigger. So let's scale you up 0.8, 0.8. You can see how it's sort of like dynamically like filling in the map as it moves around. And it's cutting off my lake here. It's unfortunate. If I want to get it over there, then it's no. Let's take a look at this now. Okay, so what it does is it dynamically will clip the edge of the map. You notice how the edge of the map now has this weird flat zone on it, and there's this weird kind of sloped, beveled edge along the entire island. That's actually part of the ocean. So I dropped an ocean in, and look, there's actually real waves. Look at that. That's not simulated, right? Like that's not like you know, using a normal map or something, that's actually waves. There's actually simulating, and with like look, there's like diffraction or refraction and stuff like that in it. It looks really amazing for something that is as simple as dragging out a circle onto the screen. You know what I mean? Like, it looks way better than mine. Now I can do things to make this look better, like when you're under the water, like have it turn blue and stuff like that. But that's pretty neat. Now the trouble is, like, I don't like it like doing this whole boundary thing here. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit and see if we can play with that. Water height map settings, alpha blend. Let's see here. Fall off, angle width, fall off angle 0. Let's see here. Fall off width 0. Ooh, look at that. Didn't like you very much. 10. There you go. This looks pretty bad. Edge offset 10. So you can see that these edge settings are all controllable. So yeah, you can play with all these things here, but interesting. But basically, they control like all these different settings of like how it blends in with the terrain and stuff like that. The angle of attack and all of that stuff. Water attenuation, water sources. So there's 2 different wave types that come in. One is this one, and the other one is Gerstner waves. So Gerstner waves are kind of more realistic looking. Gerstner wave generator, default number of waves, set up to 32 to get more realistic looking waves. Wavelengths, min wavelength, max wavelength, wavelength fall off, amplitude, min of 4, max of 80. Let's set the max to 800. And so you can play a lot with like how the waves work, and there's all these, you know, max steepness, you know, like by playing with all these different values, you can really affect the look and feel of your water and stuff like that. I would probably extend my land a little bit further down here. You know, I did, I guess, make the landscape a little bit too small this time, because you can see this thing doesn't look quite right, but pretty good overall. And then there's other things you can drag and drop in here, like a lake. Like, just put a lake in there, and boom, it just clips. It clips right into the landscape, and you can drag it down, and look, it just and it cuts away the landscape, and that angle that it cuts it away, you can obviously play with, like I was just playing with it. So I'll just put it like right here, and then if I can, where did I put it? This way. No, where'd you go? Where'd you go? No. Yeah, here we go. So here's the lake, and you can see that the land is kind of coming out here. It's not a good look there. We probably want to fix that. But what you can see is that the lake water actually, Unreal Engine tries blending it in with the ocean water. So there's actually one water engine in the game. Let's tilt this down maybe and see if that affects it. There's only one water engine in the game, and so if you have multiple water sources kind of hitting the same place, then let's see, is this one. Then the water engine does its best to try to blend the different water sources together. Where are you? Oh, there it is. Okay. So you can see we got lake water here. This is a lake that I just put in. And where it connects with the ocean, it's right here. You can see that's a gap there that we need to fix. But you see how the water just kind of flows smoothly between the two of them? Right? You guys all see that? Like it does a pretty damn good job blending the lake water and the ocean water. Maybe I can make it more obvious by like, let's see here, how to activate your yeah, that's kind of cool. Cursor waves. Amplitude, let's set the amplitude up to 160. So let's see, is that not big enough? 220. Minimum amplitude of 200. Why are you not getting really big? Might be getting overridden by the ocean. But in any event, what happens is that the water engine is going to calculate the waves for the lake and calculate the waves for the ocean, and then it will blend them together. And there's all sorts of cool things you can play with inside of here, and make really nice looking water that really was just as easy as drag and drop, right? Like, you saw what I did there. Like, I just went to the water body lake and bloop, dropped it on. Water body island, I can drop that on there, and yeah. Yeah, whatever. We don't need an island right now. We are an island. Delete you. You can add a river, just like that. So you can have the water flowing from one point to another point. This way. Nope. Nope, it's over there. You can see the water is sticking up out of the the river is too high up. So you can see here it creates a river, and then the path of the river just heads right off into the ocean, like Moses parting the Red Sea or something. So we need to mess with that a little bit. We got our endpoint here, and we can drop that down like that, and then we don't get this weird effect. Okay. There we go. So just made a river, and the river starts here, and then it heads right down this way. And you can see where the water connects with the ocean. It's like trying to blend everything together. So we got that really rough ocean water there, and we got the kind of smooth river water coming in here. We got the lake water here, and there's a gap there, which doesn't look too good. So this thing still needs a little bit of work, obviously, but it's still got a little bit of the parting of the Red Sea going on there. But that's the general idea. And you can always add more spline points. So you see how there's these like control points like that. You can always click on them, drag them around, move them around. Just kind of look at it, just like eyeball it. You make some really nice looking waterfalls and lakes and oceans, and it's really simple. It's really just a matter of you just drag it out and hit save. You're done. Okay, so that's it for today. IS-58 people, congratulations on surviving another day of game development. Would you suggest using dynamic simulator water or just planes? It just depends on what you need. It really does. The water system is really nice. Kind of a pain to deal with, especially like getting the blending between a river and a lake just right, so the water flows, like the water's flowing down fast, and then it hits the lake and it slows down. Those interfaces, and then also the intersection of the water with the landscape around it, getting that to look just right, can take a lot of tweaking and stuff like that, and sometimes you just don't care enough to do it. I would probably, I don't know, it depends also on your performance costs and things like that, so it kind of depends. Okay. How you doing? Definitely a cool function. Yeah. All right. See you guys. Pick it back up on Thursday. Watch a GDC video and report back to me. IS50B people, give me 5 minutes, and we will start then. Awesome. Glad you're here, Spartans.